Do you understand what I said? Maybe it's too hard for someone who just graduated high school. Jake, a graduate of Harvard, said this with a condescending look. It had been a while since I'd experienced such a gaze. At 47, I never thought I'd still be looked down upon just because I only had a high school diploma. It makes me wonder, do people essentially never change? It's supposed to be a joyful reunion, but I find myself feeling pretty down. I didn't feel like responding, so I decided to just take a sip of my glass of wine. But then, someone who had been watching us turned pale and appeared. "Ah, the CEO is coming." Jake, noticing the person approaching, the CEO, straightened up immediately. However, the CEO didn't even glance his way. Instead, he began apologizing me. "I'm terribly sorry. This is a new recruit who just joined us, and he's been quite rude." With such an apology, I couldn't help but feel sorry myself and placed my hand on the CEO's shoulder. "No, it's okay." It had been a while since I'd seen the CEO. He seemed a bit slimmer than before. Excuse me. May I ask your name?" The CEO sharply glared at Jake, who still not understanding the situation. "That's incredibly rude, Jake." "He is." As the CEO revealed the truth, Jake's face turned pale. Meanwhile, I was looking at the CEO's back, reminiscing about the distant past. There had been a lot of things, with him and with her. "My name is Michael Brown. I am currently employed by a trading company. I started working at this company right after graduating from high school. During high school, I applied for an exchange student program and studied abroad. This opportunity exposed me to a whole new set of perspectives and opened the door to a global worldview. I honed my Japanese skills while studying in Tokyo and continued to practice on my own after returning home to maintain proficiency in the language. My fascination with the Japanese language stemmed from my love for Japanese anime. Believed it would deepen my understanding of the nuances in anime stories. In Japanese culture, people tend to avoid direct expression of their true thoughts. Instead, they often prefer to imply or use formalities. This understanding enabled me to read between the lines and grasp the dynamics of conversations. As someone who has struggled with communication, my fascination with anime has become a valuable tool for initiating friendships. In middle and high school, I didn't make many close friends. Unable to talk honestly with others and being a bit out of sync, I struggled to build deep friendships. Rather than worrying about friendships in college, I wanted to start working early and utilize my Japanese skills. After all, I don't need friends to work. With that in mind, I looked for a company that would hire someone with just a high school diploma, and I found the ideal company. A trading firm that imports fresh seafood and products from overseas and wholesales them to domestic market. That's my current company. The interviewers seemed somewhat irritated due to my status as a high school graduate. Feeling extremely nervous, I decided to just go for it and used my best tool for expressing myself honestly, eventually speaking too much about my fascination for Japanese anime and culture. Apparently, that worked in my favor. I caught the CEO's attention, who was present in the interview, and I got the job. My heart was racing afterwards, but I felt like I was finally recognized for who I am, and I resolved to work hard at this company. However, I still had much to learn about the corporate culture. I didn't realize how weak a position being a high school graduate put me in. In our company, which values meritocracy, there wasn't a big difference in salary between college graduates and high school graduates. However, it seems there are many people in the world with strong prejudices. A certain number of colleagues looked down on me simply because I was a high school graduate. What is a high school grad like him, our colleague? Did the CEO hire him just for fun? Listen, Michael, just don't cause any trouble. Some even said this to my face. Even as a working adult, it seems I can't escape the complexities of interpersonal relationships. I felt almost despairing. But the one difference from school was that my work achievements were recognized, and I felt the satisfaction of being useful to others. Studying is something you do for yourself, but work is different. There are clients and customers. Despite my difficulties in communication, as long as I possess a certain level of job skills, they treat me as an equal. I took this as encouragement and devoted myself to my work. As a procurement officer, I mainly communicated with overseas companies, which made things easier for me. Working tirelessly for several years, I turned 25. Finally, younger colleagues started to join, and as I began to gain experience as a professional, I had a fateful encounter. It was with Mary Johnson. She was 2 years older than me. Mary, the daughter of the CEO, joined as a mid-career hire and started rotating through various departments. Amidst all this, she joined the procurement department, where I belong. Mary Johnson, with her impression of a dignified flower, was stunningly beautiful, capable of captivating and drawing the attention of people around her, even without her title as the CEO's daughter. Yet, her personality was vibrant and energetic, with both courage and physical strength. I was truly impressed that such a beautiful and straightforward woman existed. She mentioned that she had been working at another company to gain exposure to society beyond the umbrella of the CEO. Her decision to join her father's company clearly suggests that she was on track for a possible executive position, perhaps on the board or even as the next CEO. She was a high achiever, out of my league. As different as chalk and cheese, I thought. All I could do was admire her from afar. However, being a young woman, there were not a few who resented her presence. I can't stand being bossed around by some young girl. This is just another case of nepotism. So much for meritocracy. Despite these dissenting voices, it was clear to anyone who saw her work ethic that she was different. Perhaps the resistance was partly due to the fact that women's advancement in the workplace wasn't as accepted as it is now. I hoped these negative comments wouldn't reach her, but one day, I saw her in a corner of the break room, tears in her eyes. "What's wrong?" "Oh, Michael." I couldn't help but speak up. She quickly wiped away her tears. The faint clear streaks on her face told of her sadness and frustration. "I'm embarrassed you saw me like this. Did those guys say something to you again?" "Ah, I hate it, you know, old-fashioned men." "Michael, you shouldn't become like them." Perhaps she felt she couldn't show weakness to someone younger like me, trying to act tough. Her usually bright demeanor made her seem all the more fragile, and I struggled to find words of encouragement. "Miss Johnson, you're my role model. Please don't give up." "A role model, me? Just a young girl." "Please don't say just a young girl." I firmly denied her self-deprecating words, likely echoed from some thoughtless colleagues. "You don't deserve to be so hurt." That's what I wanted to convey. "I know you care about the future of this company more than anyone and work hard for it. I know that you stay late to help other employees and strive to enhance your skills and knowledge where you're lacking. I also know that you're thinking about future business plans for this company." How do you know about that?" Her surprised face was so cute, I couldn't help but smile. "I saw some documents on your desk when I passed by. You should tidy up your desk, Miss Johnson." "Oh no, you saw that." She blushed unusually, speaking in a soft voice. "I'm saucy, right? Just because I'm the CEO's daughter, daring to dream up business plans. But it's always been my dream to make my father's company even bigger." The reason she seemed so endearingly cute, despite being older, was probably because she talked about her dreams like a young girl. Before I knew it, I found myself saying, "Me too. Me too. Even though I'm just a high school graduate, I want to make the CEO's company better, bigger. I hope you change the company culture where young women are not taken seriously just because of their age. You can change that, Ms. Johnson." She opened her eyes wide and then smiled softly. "Will it change? There are many stubborn people, you know. It will change. Let's change it. You can do it." I'll never forget the day we shared our dreams. I fell in love with Mary, sharing dreams with her. It seemed Mary felt the same, and afterwards, we started dating. Our relationship, discreet due to her being the CEO's daughter, was kept quiet, but it quietly and gently nurtured our love. Our relationship was going smoothly, but then a turning point came. Mary's younger brother, 3 years her junior, Kevin, also joined the company. Of course, he too was seen as a potential executive or future CEO. Mary laughed, saying she couldn't let her competitive younger brother win. Her smile radiated familial love, but Kevin seemed different. He clearly harbored a competitive spirit against Mary, almost declaring himself as the rightful next CEO with his behavior within the company. Gradually, the company divided into those who supported Mary and those who believed Kevin was the rightful future CEO. Mary was somewhat bewildered by this division. But Kevin clearly intended to use those who supported him to elevate his position. He started creating factions, trying to isolate Mary from her allies. However, Mary, like a willow in the wind, let these developments pass over her and continued to work at her own pace. And then, 3 years passed. "Michael, I'm thinking of introducing you to my father," Mary suddenly said. Of course, since we were dating with the intention of marriage, I knew we had to reveal our relationship at some point. But it seemed like the timing might be bad now. "What would Kevin say if you introduce me now?" "Oh, I won't let Kevin oppose us. This is about us, you and me. My father likes you too, and though he might be surprised, I don't think he'll object." Mary's confidence always amazed me. True to her word, the CEO, her father, was surprised but graciously accepted our relationship. Mary's mother, the CEO's wife, felt the same. However, as expected, Kevin voiced his disapproval of our marriage. "Are you trying to angle for the CEO position or something?" "Absolutely not. If anyone's going to be CEO, it should be Mary." My response seemed to infuriate him even more. Kevin, who hadn't considered me a threat before, started seeing me as an enemy. He used his faction to harass me, but these annoyances were trivial compared to the immense pain that was to come. It happened around the time Mary and I got engaged and started living together. Mary passed away. The cause was an acute myocardial infarction. Even though the doctors explained that it could happen to young people, I couldn't comprehend why it happened to her. No, I didn't want to understand. Seeing her in the hospital room, it all felt unreal. It had to be a lie. She was so lively just yesterday. We were talking about getting married soon. Her parents, in tears, collapsed to their knees, clinging to the motionless Mary. I was just standing there, dazed, still unable to accept the fact that she was gone. The one who glared at me with red eyes, standing behind her grieving parents, was Kevin. "You were living with her, weren't you? How could this have happened?" That was what I wanted to know more than anyone. Unable to answer, I just stood there as Kevin, shaking with grief and anger, grabbed my shoulders. "You, Grim Reaper, give my sister back. Give her back." Despite our opposing positions at the company, the bond between siblings was evident. Kevin's face was twisted with sorrow. I must have looked just as pitiful. It wasn't until the CEO, seeing enough, stepped in to stop Kevin, that the barrage of accusations ended. Even after Mary's passing, I stayed at the company, continuing to work. I thought that striving in the company she wanted to grow was my way of cherishing her memory and my purpose in life. Nobody in the company knew that we were engaged. Mary, who had wanted to surprise everyone, was no longer there. The pain felt like my heart was being torn apart, but I soon had no time to grieve, as a new challenge awaited me. I was transferred from the headquarters to a struggling branch in the countryside. Though I was given the title of branch manager, it was clearly a demotion. Before I knew it, nearly 20 years had passed since that transfer. After various experiences, I was finally able to return to the headquarters, and today, I am attending a Thanksgiving party. At the party venue, I saw many young faces among the staff, the company seemingly more vibrant than before. Standing in a corner of the venue, wine in hand, I felt like a mere speck on the wall. The number of employees had increased significantly, and I noticed more instances of colleagues smiling and praising each other's work than before. A testament to the efforts of the current CEO and a reflection of the desire to make the company better. As I was musing over this, someone approached me and said, "Hello, are you from one of the branches? You look unfamiliar to us." It was Jake, a mid-career hire. He was tall and charismatic, somewhat reminding me of Mary. Perhaps that's why I let my guard down around him. "Which school did you graduate from?" To such an impertinent question, I responded without hesitation or rebuke. "I didn't go to college. I started working here right after finishing high school." Then, Jake's attitude changed drastically. "Oh, really? I graduated from Harvard, but this is the first time I've met someone like you. I didn't know this company hired high school graduates." At first, I didn't fully grasp what he was saying, but when he started laughing and switched to Japanese, I was taken aback. "Do you understand what I said? Maybe it's too hard for someone who just graduated high school." I couldn't understand why he suddenly started speaking in Japanese. Looking down on me, Jake, flipping his hair, continued, "I was hired for my language skills. It's a secret, but I've been personally told by the CEO about our new branch in Tokyo. He was brazenly sharing information that hadn't been announced to the company yet, suggesting he was quite indiscreet. Feeling disheartened, I swirled my wine in my glass, wondering what to do. Just as Mary struggled simply for being a young woman, I too, even at this age, am looked down upon by a young newcomer for being just a high school graduate. Do societal prejudices and unfair treatment never change? Is this just how it is? But then, someone appeared. It was Kevin, now the CEO of the company. Ah, the CEO is coming. Jake, oblivious to everything, lit up upon seeing Kevin, who had recruited him. However, Kevin ignored Jake and bowed deeply to me, leaving Jake looking astonished. I'm terribly sorry. This is a new recruit who just joined us, and he's been quite rude. Kevin, who took over as the new CEO 3 years ago, had gained a presence and bore the marks of his struggles. I placed my hand on his broad shoulder. No, it's okay, I reassured him. Kevin slowly raised his head, looking apologetic. Excuse me, may I ask your name? Jake, still clueless, was sharply glared at by Kevin. That's extremely rude, Jake. This is Michael Brown. He's my brother-in-law. You're my brother-in-law. Calling me his brother-in-law might be a bit of a stretch. After all, Mary and I only got engaged. We never had the chance to officially become family. However, Kevin, perhaps to assert his authority, cleared his throat loudly and delivered a final statement to Jake. Furthermore, Mr. Brown will be the head of the Tokyo branch. In other words, he's your boss. What? Jake, who had just been put in his place, looked utterly stunned. I faced him and, a bit mischievously, introduced myself in Japanese. Frankly speaking, his language level was introductory. Native Japanese speakers would have a hard time communicating with Jake. I purposely speak with clear intonation, like an anchorman, serving as a good example. As I finished speaking, I thought about getting Jake enrolled in the company's language program. He responded with an exaggerated round of applause. Well, Mr. Brown, your Japanese is fantastic. The best. I'm really looking forward to working with you. I couldn't help but give a wry smile at his obvious flattery. I assumed Jake was easily swayed by status and power. Wondering if I could really manage a subordinate like Jake, I maintained my composure for Kevin's sake, smiling and saying, I look forward to working with you too. After watching Jake hastily disappear into the crowd at the party, Kevin and I stood side by side against the wall, watching the employees from a distance. Kevin, the CEO, let out a sigh. Really, I'm so sorry about all this, Mr. Brown. It's fine. I'm not bothered by it, CEO. CEO. It still feels strange. With that, Kevin took a sip of his wine. I did the same. It's odd, really. Here I am, standing next to him, despite having been seen as an adversary and even demoted. It takes me back about 20 years. I recall the time when I was demoted to a regional branch. Having lost Mary and been sent away to the branch, I was shocked at its state. The quality of the staff was poor, and the operations that should have been functioning smoothly at the headquarters were not being carried out properly. The branch was underperforming and dragging down the company. I had a bad feeling about it, but I hadn't expected it to be this bad. This was not the vision of the company Mary had dreamed of. I made a decision. No more running away from communication issues or difficulties in dealing with people. I was going to transform this place into something Mary wouldn't have been ashamed of. After all, I had promised her on the day we first shared our dreams. Let's change it. You can do it, I had told her. Now, those words I had spoken to Mary became a mantra to motivate myself. It's okay. People can change. I can change. I am capable of it. So, I threw myself into the work, tirelessly dedicating myself to turning around the struggling branch, despite being new to the role of a branch manager. Those days helped to lessen the sense of loss I felt after Mary's passing. It took nearly a decade to transform what was once a deficit-ridden branch into a profitable one. Yet, the void left by Mary's absence remained wide open. Without her, without marriage, without children, I remained single, simply becoming an older man. One day, unexpectedly, I received a call from an unlikely person. It was Kevin. I have something I want to talk to you about." His voice was very calm. Since Mary's funeral, I hadn't had a proper conversation with him within the company. He was probably behind my transfer, and I assumed he still saw me as an adversary. However, his solemn voice nudged me, and I decided to meet with him. At the lounge of the hotel where we agreed to meet, what he handed me was a document achingly familiar. "This is something Mary created, isn't it? So, you knew about it too. This future business plan. I couldn't forget it. After all, it was a memento from the day Mary and I first shared our dreams. I had only seen it briefly on her desk, but there was no mistaking it. Tentatively, I picked up the document Mary had created. Facing me, Kevin bowed his head in a decisive manner. "Mr. Brown, I invited you here today to apologize. I'm truly sorry. Kevin, to be honest, I was jealous of you. You were able to be my sister's, Mary's, partner in work." As Kevin raised his head, he showed a face of a brother for the first time, confessing as if in penance. He said that Mary had always been an excellent sister who could do anything. On the other hand, Kevin always felt overshadowed by Mary's superior abilities, believing himself to be the opposite. Even he knew that Mary was the rightful heir to the CEO position. Yet, wanting to outdo his sister, Kevin formed factions and opposed her. I honestly thought I could win because women's positions in the company are weak. But after she passed away, I realized it wasn't about winning. I just wanted to be on equal footing with her. At this point, Kevin showed me tears for the first time. He didn't sob when Mary died, not even at her funeral. Seeing him shedding large tears, I understood. Kevin was a profoundly awkward person. Wiping his tears, he laid his hand on Mary's future business plan. I found this document a year after my sister passed away, on her computer. It was like a pie-in-the-sky plan, full of idealistic thoughts, just childish dreams. But Kevin then smiled faintly. I had never envisioned such a future for the company, any future really. "Kevin, it's pathetic, isn't it? I was trying to overthrow my sister to become the next CEO, but I had no vision for the company's future. I was thoroughly disgusted with myself." Shrugging his shoulders, Kevin straightened up. Then, looking at me intently, he spoke with resolve. "Mr. Brown, I was the one who orchestrated your transfer, right? You knew, didn't you? But why, after all this time, did he decide to reveal the truth?" When I asked why he was revealing just now, he responded, "You diligently discharged your duty in the branch where I sent you as a form of harassment. I thought you would leave the company after my sister's death, but you stayed, persevered, and turned the branch around." Then Kevin did something unexpected. "I had no choice but to acknowledge and accept you, as my sister did. Though it took me 10 years and it's late, I'm truly sorry." He repeatedly expressed his deep remorse and asked forgiveness. The reason he invited me today was to reveal the truth behind my transfer and to apologize. I never expected him to apologize like this, and I was simultaneously flustered and deeply moved. People can change. People really can change. No, perhaps it's that the emotions we hold are twisted and distorted by our environment and the people around us. Just like the admiration for his sister that turned into jealousy, but also something that, given the right opportunity, could be reverted back to its original form. Kevin was proving that right now. "Kevin, please, I don't hold any grudges against you. But still, rather, I am grateful. The branch I'm at is challenging, but it's changing. We have a big project next month. Right now, I am working with a sense of purpose. You, Mr. Brown, are quite something." I picked up the future business plan that was still on the table. Then I made a bold proposition. "Kevin, how about we make this future business plan a reality together?" "What?" "This is Mary's dream, your sister's dream. I just realized that I want to make it come true with you." For the first time, I saw Kevin's face drop in surprise. His tears, apologies, and astonished expression, they were all his true self. And then, he showed me another new side of himself. "You really are something." It was a very kind smile, reminiscent of Mary, and it almost brought tears to my eyes. Thus, Kevin and I secretly began to work on Mary's future business plan. But Mary's characteristic touch was evident in every detail of the plan, which made me happy. We established an in-house language program to facilitate easy learning and reformed the evaluation system to improve the company's internal communication. These were all visions Mary had wanted to realize for the company. Kevin and I worked together to implement them one by one. I handled the creation of the language program and arranging for instructors, while Kevin mainly oversaw the overhaul of the internal evaluation system. Working on these projects felt as if I was collaborating with Mary, together with her brother Kevin. We were fulfilling the dreams she had chased. I could feel the void in my heart, left by her absence, gradually shrinking. Mary, you are still supporting us, aren't you? The future business plan she created, which I keep at my desk, becomes a cherished means of communication with her as I read it from time to time. And now, recalled to the headquarters, I step onto the stage as the newly appointed head of the first overseas branch in Tokyo. 500 employees. The company, which had less than 100 employees when I joined, has grown significantly. Mary's father, the former CEO, retired a few years ago to focus on his treatment for his advancing illness. Now the chairman, he still supports the young CEO, Kevin. Today, with his wife's support, he watched me with a dignified gaze. I glanced at him, the man I can no longer call my father-in-law, and then faced the employees. I have been appointed as the head of the Tokyo branch and have now joined the headquarters. My name is Michael Brown. Speaking in front of such a large crowd still makes me nervous, even at this age. It reminds me of the job interview I had when I joined a company as a high school graduate. Back then, I used my language skills and love for Japanese culture as an escape during my interview. But now, there's no more running away. The nearly 20 years I spent at the struggling branch have honed my perspective and courage. Speaking clearly and delivering my message in my own words, I felt confident about my formal address. Yes, people can change. And it seems, without realizing it, I had changed too. After finishing my speech and stepping down from the stage, I caught the eye of the former CEO. His face, different from before my speech, held a gentle expression, giving me a sense of relief. At the bottom of the stage, Jake greeted me with an especially loud applause, making me smile a bit. As the Thanksgiving party was winding down, Kevin called me aside. We found ourselves standing shoulder to shoulder in a corner of the venue again. Thank you for today, Mr. Brown. Thank you as well, Mr. CEO. The party's over, dropped the CEO. All right, thank you, Kevin. He smiled, seemingly pleased with my response. Then he handed me a large brown envelope. I accepted it, somewhat surprised. What's this? Just take a look. Kevin, now speaking more casually, seemed to have shed his CEO demeanor. Curious, I pulled out the contents of the envelope and was surprised. It was a marriage certificate format with examples, and already filled out except for the husband section. Wife was already completed with the name Mary Johnson. I was at a loss for words. It was unmistakably Mary's handwriting. I found it with the future business plan in my sister's room. It looks like it was an X in a wedding magazine. She must have filled it out secretly. Looking forward to marrying you. I fully unfolded the paper. The format was adorned with floral illustrations, adding charm to it because it was a magazine annex. All I could do was imagine how happy Mary, who had always actively fulfilled her responsibilities at the office, filled out the format. It just broke my heart. My vision blurred with tears. I had no intention of showing this to you until now because you have a future ahead, and you might get married. But you're at a good age now, and you'll probably stay single, right? Kevin said this with a hint of his old self. In the officiant section, their handwritten names, those of the former CEO and Kevin, were found. He had accepted me as a brother-in-law, as Mary's husband. Thank you so much. I couldn't hold back any longer. In front of Kevin, I expressed my gratitude repeatedly as large tears continued to wet the ground. The huge void that had been left in my heart since Mary's passing, the unfulfilled feeling that had tormented me for 20 years, was finally being filled by the most beloved person, Mary. And so, the marriage certificate, which could never be officially submitted, was carefully stored in my desk alongside Mary's future business plan. That desk is now across the sea, in Tokyo. Branch manager, I finally secured an appointment. I'm off to the presentation now. Well done, Jake, as expected of you. Yes, sir. Our Tokyo branch, with less than 10 members, is a small but elite team, currently striving to get off the ground. Jake, who once boasted about his Harvard education and seemed insufferable, has come to realize that his academic background doesn't hold much weight overseas. Now, he no longer flaunts his credentials and is diligently putting in the effort every day. He was handpicked by Kevin, after all. If he can shed his misplaced pride and prejudice, he has the potential to be a valuable asset. Just make sure you don't let Jake get too carried away. Branch manager. I'm occasionally warned by other employees, indicating that Jake hasn't changed entirely yet. Haha, understood. The branch is just starting out. There will undoubtedly be many challenges ahead. But I know this. People can change. Growth is possible at any age if one sets their mind to it. Isn't it right? Mary. The blue sky visible from the small office window stretches all the way back to the States, and probably even to heaven. Maybe Mary is still watching from there, concerned as ever. Until the day I join her, I want to live in a way that I wouldn't be ashamed to tell her about. So today, like every day, I'll stand tall and proud, continuing to change and grow.